Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to do something a little different. Instead of a vinyl update like usual, I came up with this idea last night to talk about albums that are on my want list. And I'm not going to be showing any records in this video, except for what's in the back behind me. The sun's actually going down, so the shade's in the way, but that's kind of why it looks weird there, but maybe I'll go like that, huh? But anyways, so these records I'm going to talk about today are all on my Discogs want list, and I may have mentioned it in the past, but I rarely put like a whole lot on my want list on there, just because I either have stuff on there that I'm looking for, just in case it ever pops up, meaning it's pretty rare, or if it's something I'm enjoying in the moment, and if a good copy pops up for cheap, I'll pick up on it. So some of these have been in my want list for years, ever since I got Discogs, and some are just kind of more recently. And if it's something kind of fallen out of, or I don't think I necessarily need it that badly, I'll typically remove it, maybe after a month or so after listening. But yeah, I just try to keep it, fairly low number. I think I have like maybe 100 pressings in my want list. And so, with that said, on the off chance I ever find these in the wild or at a good price, these are some of the top finds for me that I'm looking for. So, maybe a part 2 to the series. We'll just see how you guys enjoy this video, and because these are records I never talked about on here before, and so just to give you an idea of kind of what I'm most interested in, I can continue on, pick maybe 20 more records, maybe not on my Discogs want list necessarily, but just in general. So let's dive into them. So I got the list in front of me here, and then with each album I'll put a little clip art, probably around here roughly, and show you a little the album sleeve, and maybe a little clip of what the sounds within sound like. So these are in no particular order, but I kind of mixed them up in a way so they're not, in order as I selected them. But so let's get started. So the first one is Janelle Richie with her album Remembering, and this chick was from Nebraska, and this album was pressed in Omaha. I think she's originally from North Platte. This is one of those albums where I have a good gut feeling that I could come across this in the wild if I keep digging around Omaha or something. I just feel it, because I found a lot of great rare local stuff in the past. If you guys have been keeping up with my videos, just this year I found Bruce Hiller, something I never imagined finding for $9. But yeah, Remembering, I've not heard this album in full, but it's got a very pastoral, dreamy folk sound, very singer-songwriter, and the woman was only 16 when she made this record, and she has like this very kind of husky voice. It's just marvelous stuff, and I actually contacted her through Facebook one time, and she only had like 2 copies left, one for herself and like her sister or cousin had one, and of course, so she's pretty much sold out of her records. Some collectors over the years have asked her, from Europe, if she had any copies left, and she sold for good prices over there. So it's gone for some big bucks now, and so it's just one I pray to find down the road soon enough. So here's a little clip of what that sounds like.
Do you remember back to your childhood, the only people you loved?
Moving on to the next album, I picked Joad, or Jody, on Vanguard label. This is one that I know 2 people on the VC have, Papa Duke Tyler on Instagram, and also Ron at Hog Zero Report. When I first got notice of this album, he shared it a few years ago, and it's kind of laced in like a pop rock sound. Not necessarily all psychedelic, but it's kind of got this hippie vibe going for it, and it's a pretty cool record. It's kind of one that grows on you. It's available to listen to online. I haven't heard it in a while, but it's definitely one of those records that just never seems to pop up if at all. Very slim chances that it'll pop up. I think it's only popped up on eBay one time, I've noticed, but I think it was overseas perhaps. And then this one on Discogs is overseas, so it's like, why are they over there, for a US release? So copies of this are pretty scarce. Came out in '71, a little, outside the Psych era, so it just very seldom gets talked about, and I think it should get talked about. It's one that kind of grows on you. It's pretty good. Then the next LP I picked out of the Private Press selection is Junius Brutus. That's how you pronounce it. Variable Complexions, 1984. This band was based out of the 80s. I guess you can call them neo-psych, but they don't even sound like that. They sound very authentic to the 60s sound. I've only heard like 2 or 3 tracks off this one album. I think they made like 4 or 5 LPs during the 80s, and they do keep to that 60s flavor, and it's convinced me enough to keep it on my watch list, and hope to scoop up a copy down the road. It'd be nice, but they seem pretty scarce, and the information on this band is pretty limited as well. I can't find where they're based out of or anything, so hope to do extensive research down the road if I ever happen to pick up an album of theirs, but this is the one that's interested me the most, so here's a clip.
I've got love in my brown eyes. Hope you realize that I was wonder.
Okay, now we're switching over to Montreal, Canada with The Medium. This is one of those Canadian scarce obscurities that just rarely seems to pop up, if at all. I've only seen like maybe 2 copies, my time spent in the psych realm. And just recently there was a copy on Discogs. I think it was kind of a lower grade, but it would be nice to have like a VG Plus copy. I was really debating of getting it, but I don't know if that's sold or not on there. But copies on the Gamma label are, just, you never see them pop up, and there's been no reissue of this either. Even on CD, I believe. There might be a CD release. I take that back. There might be. But as far as a vinyl release on like Gearson, it'd be a perfect album to do, and I'd pick it up. But an original is definitely, demanded, and would be nice to own. Then as far as US psych goes, we're going to the Bosstown sound. The Art of Lovin' is one of those mainstream titles that having an original of is pretty desirable for me. I've been picking up on some mainstream OGs this year in particular, and it's just one of those I would like to pick up. And of course, my favorite on the label, I would arguably my favorite, The Growing Concern. Of course I'd love an OG of that, but just seems impossible at this point, but hey, you never know. But The Art of Lovin' doesn't seem as desirable as that one, and that one's very much laced in like sunshine pop and pop psych, a little bit of rock here and there, but definitely one of those titles from the Bosstown scene that I'm just really missing from the collection and would love to own. And we're still sticking in the US, and we're going to Disneyland. I say that because of this band, the Aggregation, with their album Mind Odyssey. It's one of the perfect examples of conceptual records that influences with jazz and psych, and it's just a perfect combo of the two with horns. And even though horns are usually, pretty defensible on horns, it still works very well on this record, and it's very stylized in a way that just takes you to another world, And I said Disneyland because it's actually backed by the stage band or the session members who would play at Disneyland for the kids. So Disneyland and LSD, we all know that goes together, and so that's why that makes the album perfect.
And when I looked around, my body was gone, my mind had flown, and I was alone with myself and with God, who was me all along.
As far as other privates on my want list, this is one that's been on there for quite a while. David Meyer with his album Endetter Minatsi. I don't know how you pronounce the album name. It's kind of a long syllable title, but it's a private press that came out in like maybe 78 or so, I think. And I've only heard one track on YouTube, but it's just enough to convince me that this is very haunting and kind of eerie freak folk or acid folk. I know Alex Kerner has a copy of this, and I would be very interested to hear the rest of it. I've only seen one copy pop up online on eBay, but it just went way above my price range, and I was hawks on that one. So it's very desirable for me, and just never pops up anymore. But I'm just still waiting. And the only thing I could find on David was that he may have been, kind of involved with the film industry or in some way, like in the art direction, I believe. I read that a while ago, but I'm not sure if it's the same guy either. But here's a clip.
Of constant vigilance, I've got to get out of this. It's the verge.
Then as far as titles on the White Whale label, Horses self-titled is definitely one of those that did seem pretty cheap for a while until, it suddenly got this hype, from people on Instagram and Facebook. People showed it, and it's just kind of skyrocketed ever since. It's kind of laced in that country rock flavor with a little bit of lots of folk elements, but also a little bit of touch of psych in the mix for good measure. And they were based out of the San Francisco area as well. I think the guitarist went on to a band called like Kingfish or something. I've not heard their music, but definitely one to seek out if you're looking for stuff more on the White Whale label. Seems to be pretty scarce, so didn't really sell at all. And if I remember right, it's kind of power poppy as well. It's been a while since I've heard it, but then the next album is actually a recent discovery of mine. This is one I'm pretty fresh to, and I hope it's going to be a good one if I ever see it for cheap. And this is Bobby Merritt with his album Out of the Crowd. And this is on the Music-Core label. And just looking at the sleeve, the album sleeve, and the back sleeve where he's all dressed up in this kind of psychedelic outfit, kind of looking like a geek, the track I listened to, it's got kind of this like country flavor, but it's also, talking about hallucinating and stuff, and it just intrigued me enough to keep my eyes on this one. I've heard nice reviews online about this. It's got some like funk elements, country, and psych, so hey, I'm all about that. So we'll just have to see what that all sounds like if it truthfully is, Here's a clip of the one track I found.
My first visions of you were hallucinations. I dreamed I saw 1,000,000 flowers, and you stood in the middle of them, listening to song.
Then speaking of Tower Records, this is one that seldom gets talked about on the label, it seems, and that's Scorpion, self-titled. Just a one-and-done effort. I don't know where they're from, but it's got a very, Cleveland, Ohio, or Detroit, Michigan kind of sound. Very influenced by the funkadelic sound going on at the time, Purple Image, African-American based funk and soul, but also some psych leanings with some great wah-wah guitar going on. Very funky and nice quality production on that record. Definitely one I'm going to scoop up if I ever see a nice copy. I've seen a lot of beat up copies online, so just hope for the best sometime down the road. Here's a clip.
Down another road I go. Every day alone in time.
Then as far as other private presses from the land of Canada, we have Glenn Dixon with his album Reflections. This one, it's kind of more progressive, spacey hard rock, but it's also got some really nice, gentle, cosmic, floaty sounds throughout. It's kind of got this very, apocalyptic kind of concept going for it in sound. And it's also got this low fidelity throughout. It just gives it this really unique charm, and I've only seen 2 copies online for sale. one I was just really debating on popping on because it's such a great record. A little out of my price range, but if I ever see it again, it's debatable. But here's a clip of that record.
I can hardly believe what you're saying. How can you not even see what I see?
And we're going back into the U.S. With another one-and-done effort, Chelsea on Decca Records. This featured Peter Criss, who would later go on to Kiss, most famously for the drummer. This one's very much reminiscent of like bands on that label at the time, like Glass Harp, Wishbone Ash, sort of mixed in with that hard rock sound, but and tinges of psychedelia here and there. It's kind of progressive pop in a way as well, so it's got a lot of those kind of sounds going for it. Here's a clip of one of my favorite tunes on that album.
I was a young, I didn't know. Now.
And here's a Private Press I've never seen pop up online at all, but the songs are just what I'm looking for. And it's on that famous Century label, which produced a lot of private records. This is Rich Howe, A Summer. And I don't know if it's a folk duo or if it's the same guy singing, but they have very matching harmonies going for it. And they may have been like students just cutting this record on the whim. And some of the sounds they create are just it's just got this really nice simplicity to it. And just a great charm overall. It's got kind of a wintry feel, if anything summer related. It feels very cold in its atmosphere, the way the piano kind of strikes and stuff. And it's very much laced in the psych folk realm, I would say, and it's very, very good. Here's a clip of one of my favorite tracks on there.
A morning finds me next to you, my freedom traded for your company. I'm glad you waited to be here with me.
And here's more of a recent discovery that I'm really anxious to find somewhere online in the future. This is Zit, or Zayit, XIT, with their album Entrance. And this band was previously Lincoln Saint Exit, who had an album on Mainstream as well. Native American band that released this third album in the early 70s, but it's got a very nice 1968 flavor going for it, kind of in the later period of Strawberry Alarm Clock kind of sounds. Nice, really heavy organ and guitar-driven melodies. A little bit of Creedence Clearwater in there too, one track is, but it's a good one still. And it kind of sounds like J.K. and Company in the vocals, in the organ sometimes too. So it's really one to check out, and that I feel is understated and underrated as well. So here's a clip of one of the songs from there.
Always try to love her. Always try.
And this album, I actually own this album, but this is one of those long time ones I've really been wanting and could just never find an affordable copy on MTA. And it's The Maze with Armageddon. One of my all-time favorite 5-star acid-doused, San Franciscan-based psych rock. Very much in the line of Iron Butterfly, Brain Police, but a lot better in my opinion. Just looking at the cover art, just how liquidized and lethargic it looks, it's just throws you right into the mix, and it's very kind of dramatic, maybe over dramatic, and just laced with everything I love. Just would love an original copy of that, but they seem to be climbing up in value, $200 for a clean copy. I did have a chance once to buy it from Constantine, who had a $100 copy, but the cover was kind of beat, and I just wanted it to all look nice, So that's one that's highly deserves the hype. And this is one, of course, that I do mention a lot in the channel, I think, or at least to friends of mine in the VC. You know, I find copies, people posting them from Australia and Europe, and this album was recorded literally like a half hour away from me in David City, Nebraska, and it's on the Renee label, probably the most collectible record on the label, Graham James, What Is Me? Even though the guy's vocals are just totally horrid, you know, to listen to, he can't hold a note on about any song except for maybe the second one. And the second track is what, you know, people love about it. It's talking about, you know, walking down the halls of LSD, or, you know, looking through a psychedelic glass. Very laced in that kind of acid folk vibe. But it's just one I can't believe I haven't found in a thrift store yet, you know, because I see everything else on the label but those collectible ones, you know, especially the Graham James. And so I'm just hoping one day it'll happen, but we shall see. I really don't want to buy one online just yet, but still have a lot of hope for Graham James around here.
Come take a trip, just you and me, down the halls of LSD, where our hair long and our bodies unclasped, look at the world through a psychedelic light.
And finally, maybe the mother of all grails, right? As far as one, you know, that I hope to find down the line that's affordable in some way, maybe a $200 copy, without ringware, and plays about VG+. Not sure if I want a mono or stereo yet. I've never been much of debate on the mono and stereo discussions, but this is just an album I just want, you know. An OG Easter Everywhere. This one is just always, in my mind, one that I've just always desired to get down the road, and it's just never happened yet. If I couldn't get that one, you know, it'd be nice to have Bull of the Woods as well. Probably my second favorite album of theirs. And as far as a debut, I really don't need an original copy of that, but I actually don't own any 13th Floor Elevator LPs in these stacks, which is hard to believe, but like I said, it's kind of one I just kind of waiting down the road to score on the big one, you know, on the mega stuff. But it's probably climbed in value ever since Rocky's passed too. So that always seems to happen when artists pass away. But yeah, Easter Everywhere is one of the more top grails that I feel like I could afford it down the road and finally pop on it. So it's one that I'm gonna venture down that path and seek out. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and if you guys enjoyed this video, you know, me putting all the clips in, I probably can't get every song in, you know, due to copyright or whatever, but if you enjoyed this video, you know, maybe I'll do a part 2 of records that maybe aren't on my want list necessarily, like on Discogs, but just stuff I'm listening to in general that, you know, I could update you on what I'm listening to or what I'm spinning during the week. Just let me know. So hope you guys have a good weekend. Don't know if I'm going to upload this tomorrow. I'll probably upload it Saturday morning. We'll see. But you guys take care, and we shall see you soon.